Hello, hello, hello. Chainsaw Man chapter 231 dropped today, and apparently that's the second last chapter of Chainsaw Man, as far as we know for now, for the for forever actually. Uh yeah, let's quickly get through the summary of it. So apparently everything just got eaten by the insect devils after last chapter off screen, including Denji and Pochita, but because Pochita ate the death devil, or Denji did that through Pochita, death is no longer a thing, so Denji and Pochita are still technically alive in some form in their mental space, even though they no longer have a physical body to use. And Denji is upset that he never get to bang, because that's all he wanted, apparently. But Pochita refutes him and says that he was happier when he was living in poverty and when he was suffering. Apparently, he can only find happiness when he is in a terrible place. And I'll get to that, how I feel about that in a bit. But Pochita then turns into his giant form and he hugs Denji, which is similar to the ending of part 1 where Denji hugs Pochita in their mental space, and Pochita then rips out his own heart and eats it because in some way he blamed himself for a lot of the chaos that occurred, and maybe Denji will be better off without him, he thinks, so he eats himself and says his final farewell to Denji and tells him to keep dreaming on, and waves goodbye at him, does a peace sign while he's doing that. Fujimoto loves his peace signs. And we jump back to the cabin, Denji's little shed in the mountains, when he was living in poverty. So, and apparently next chapter is the final chapter, which came out of nowhere, but that kind of tracks with how part 1 ended. That also came, I'd say this is a bit more sudden than part 1, because part 1 was announced like 3 weeks before the actual finale, and there were a lot of rumors before the actual ending dropped. Um, but otherwise, I guess I was somehow right about Pochita resetting things and doing like a time travel of sorts, which is surprising to myself as well, because that is I was not expecting to be right about that. But moving back a little bit to Pochita's interpretation of Denji's happiness, whether Pochita is correct or not, I'll leave that aside for now, but I really want to get into I guess, the quality of this narrative, which is, I feel like this conclusion isn't really logical, right? Because in part 2, Denji was kind of living it up, but it's not like he chose to, like, his happiness wasn't caused explicitly by him, like, being in a better spot in his life, right? Because there were like other factors that caused his suffering. It's not him being successful and being Chainsaw Man that caused the suffering. It's whatever Baron and Fami or the Death Devil and Yoshida were doing to him. It's not. I feel like if Fujimoto wanted to go this route, then he should have shown more of Denji being a superhero rather than just getting his shit fucked up. That's my thought on this particular plot point, which I'm not the biggest fan of for now. I do feel like it's a really depressing note to end on, that everything Denji did for himself was not really meaningful and whatnot. So I'm not the biggest fan of that, but we'll see what happens next chapter. But speaking of which, here are some of my predictions for next chapter. I think we're gonna get like a alternate universe for the finale where Denji does go to school, but he's a poor motherfucker. So he gets bullied by his classmates for being poor and dirty. I think Makima will make a return as a teacher because in this, I guess, without Pochita, Makima wouldn't really have a reason to go for Denji, target Denji. So I think she'll make a return just for like some fan service. I think Reze will make like a return too, just for like a cameo, and then to hit the "Let's go to school together" Denji note. One thing I'm adamant about is that Nobana is a girl. I feel like Fujimoto. I feel like he won't actually ever show that, but that's a unimportant thing that I'm willing to die on the hill on. Speaking of dying, we're gonna see this motherfucker, the Yakuza granddad from the first chapter. I hate this guy. He is my least favorite character in the whole series, probably. But that being said, my prediction for the final page, final panels is like Denji, after getting bullied for the whole chapter, he's gonna run into Asa somehow in a big double spread. And I think this goes one of two ways. Either they recognize each other and they start talking, or they just walk past each other and then never acknowledge one another. I think that's how it's gonna end, but we'll see in about 2 weeks. But on a more different note, on a more logistical note, what should really happen though to Denji? Because Pochita said he doesn't know what's gonna happen when he does that. But if you remember in chapter 1, Denji wasn't in a good spot to begin with. Denji, he was missing an eye, he was missing his left nut. I think the left one. Might be the right, I'm not sure. I can't really call myself a Chainsaw Man fan if I can't remember which ball Denji was missing. But if you remember in chapter 1, Denji had like a heart condition that was passed on from his mother, so he was already going to die of natural causes if Pochita wasn't there. So in the event that Pochita never existed, Denji should just like die, apparently. Also, without the Pochita chainsaw, he couldn't defend himself against devils, so he or the Yakuza, so he might also die. We mentioned Makima earlier. She would have been never interested in Denji, so I guess the plus side is that a lot of devils that targeted Denji won't be doing that otherwise because they have no chainsaw to go after. There's something else that I wanted to talk about regarding this. I guess the how Pochita's powers here work is really not like in a straight line because they don't exist in real life anymore. This is like a mental space when Pochita was talking to Denji. So it's like, would Pochita eating himself operate in the same manner as if he eats something in real life? That's probably a factor that would mess with the how the erasure memory thing works. Da, 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 da. And then let me think what else. Also, the idea of Pochita eating himself, because his main body deteriorates when he pulls out his heart. So would the main body still be as potent in terms of his powers to erase? So I doubt Fujimoto himself is actually like thinking that much about it. He's probably just gonna do whatever. But the logistics of Pochita eating himself is interesting to think about. Um, Otherwise, I guess my predictions for the rest of Fujimoto's career. So he seems really burnt out right now. I don't think he's going to be making anything for anytime soon. I think he's going to rest for like a year or two minimum. I think he's going to start a new series at some point. And I have no basis for this, but I think the new series is going to be like nothing supernatural at all. Just like a slice of life, maybe even I don't know if he's gonna go for rom com, but I think it's gonna be like the Oshinoko to Akasaka's Kaguya, where he makes like a second series that's surprisingly even more. I wouldn't say maybe. I'd say like close to the popularity of Chainsaw Man, and then he returns to Chainsaw Man after like 6, 7 years, 6, 7, 6, 7. But yeah. But otherwise, I might not sound like it, but I am pretty emotional about all this. I been doing this stream for almost 3 years now, I think. Um, yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do after this. There's a bunch of videos that I've never made, which is speaking of, it's like a side tangent, but it is a reason why I do kind of I don't so for disclaimer, I don't like fully like the direction Denji's character went in part two all that much, but one aspect that I really can relate to is his I guess his impulsiveness and his inability to get over that. It's like myself when I procrastinate. I know what I should be doing, but I just end up not doing that. So that's something that I can relate to a lot. Um, but otherwise, I don't know what else I'm gonna do on Tuesday nights, man. Cause I've been doing this. This is like my identity at this point. What am I gonna do on Tuesday nights? What else is coming out on Tuesdays? Frieren is always on break. There's what else is on Tuesday? There's Marriage Toxin, which is I like, but there's like not really much to talk about. Let me do a quick look on my phone to see what else is coming out on Tuesdays. Oh god, I might have to do I might have to read Rent a Girlfriend. That comes out on Tuesdays. Jeez. I'm gonna be a Rent a Girlfriend YouTuber from now on. Jesus. Oh, but yeah, let's take a look at some of the chat for now. Comments for this week. Hello, hello. Unless Fujimoto is tired of a manga, this almost confirms part 3. Too many items pending for one chapter. That's the thing though. I do think Fujimoto is actually quite tired of the manga because there's been a lot more consistency errors. There's a lot more jump cuts, and I think the first time I noticed that I feel Fujimoto was a bit burnt out was around like chapter 140 something. Because I think Fujimoto's bread and butter is like how good he construct the panels, right? But around when Barum like set out the chainsaw zombies on Denji, there was a few moments where Fujimoto kind of repeat panels of like Denji just having the same expression but in different frames. And like that's when I was like, Fujimoto is. That's also when I think Fujimoto's art like kind of declined a bit, and a lot of fans were calling it out. Because part two started with like really pretty, really thin, deliberate line art, and then around when Fumiko showed up, the line art got like thicker and a lot more overlapping. But I do feel Fujimoto was quite burnt out, and even beyond just like what happened in part two, there's a lot of plot lines that never got resolved. And that was the case for part one a little bit as well. So I think closing every plot line that he opened is just not something that Fujimoto does. This reminded you of Fire Punch when Agni gets amnesia. Yeah, I was thinking more of when Agni like went to see the orphanage and then he blacked out, but that works too. I think I'm really glad that you guys told me to watch Evangelion though before the past few weeks because this really just reminds me of like episode 25 and 6 of Evangelion where everything just like apparently everything is just gone off screen. Crazy. Let's see. Part 3 could be about Denji recreating a Chainsaw Devil. Chainsaw still exists since the erasure power is not perfect and humanity can recreate technology. Yeah, that could be it. That could happen. Pochita's power sits in time travel from what we've seen. He only erases things moving forward. Chainsaw should exist as an ornament and it can be recreated. Also, Denji's house was never destroyed. Yeah, but yeah, I guess if Denji was, I guess Denji would be still living there today if he never got Pochita in him. Pochita misunderstood Denji's happiness. He always said that he loved being Chainsaw Man. Yeah, but at the same time, Pochita is inside of Denji's heart. He always appears during Denji's subconscious, so I do think Pochita. I don't know. We'll see next chapter, but I do think Fujimoto's intent is for Pochita to really know what Denji want. You saw Shonen Jump edited the last page to just saying to be continued instead of last chapter. Let me check this. You mean on the English page? Let me. I didn't. Let me see. The next chapter. I think that's just like a default standard notification thing, though, isn't it? Let me. Because the on the final page still says final chapter for me. Let me see. Yeah. One thing I'm a bit surprised by is that there's no official announcement from like the magazine or the editors yet. Cause usually when an ending is happening, you know, they will make like a big Twitter announcement somewhere, which hasn't been out yet from what I've seen. So that's like my one holdup on whether it's actually ending. Let's a trait comment. Denji said he sold one of his nuts, never said which one, or if it was the left or right. Really? Let me double check that. I could have sworn he named the which nut he would lose. I do think that's a really good philosophical question though. Is like if you were forced to choose, would you keep your left or the right nut? Because one is bigger than the other. I'm not sure which one of mine is the larger of the two. Oh, you're right. He did say he sold one of his nuts. He sold his right eye, and he sold his nut for less than 10,000 yen. That's like not $1,000, man. That's crazy. You can buy two. You can't even buy a good laptop with that much. Crazy Denji. But yeah, Denji might be missing his ball again, which is not good. I don't like that. I don't like the asymmetry of him not having one of his nuts. It feels off to me. But yeah, you're right. He never specified. If Fujimoto still wants to do Chainsaw Man Part 3, it's gonna just be about becoming Chainsaw Man again, just like nuclear weapons. People can't recreate the fear for chainsaws. Yeah, I think you're onto something. If there is a continuation, it's probably Denji rediscovering Pochita in some way. I saw this theory that Denji actually got eaten by the Nightmare Devil. Remember the devil at the end of 230, the Crescent Moon headed devil, and that he's just having his worst nightmare. Could be. I don't know how I feel about that, because that, I think you're talking about this one. I don't know how I feel about that, because that would make this chapter feel like a waste of time, really. I do think the nightmare thing kind of works because he really wants to be Chainsaw Man, but at the same time, the past few dozen chapters, he's experienced some real negatives of being Chainsaw Man, so I don't know what's gonna go down with that. Let's see, where was I? This chapter left me pretty empty with the end of part 2 in 2 weeks. Yeah, I do like that he gave us a bonus week to kind of prepare ourselves for it rather than just dropping it on us like next week. I thought, I mean, like ending it really suddenly is Fujimoto style, but I kind of thought there's a chance that he'd wait and drag this out to at least when the next season comes out of the TV anime. Fujimoto will have to make a 100-page chapter to fix all of this. We're just a part. I do think the next chapter is going to be a lot longer than the previous one. I think it's going to be like 60 pages at least. I think we can maybe figure it out by just like counting how many chapters, how many of the past couple chapters going to fit in the next volume. In fact, somebody probably already done that, but I do think the next chapter is going to be extra long. It's going to be like at least 30 pages, but I'm guessing 60 plus. Evangelion officially leaked the anniversary video showing the Asuka timeline last week. I think I saw like a picture of Denji and not Denji, sorry, Shinji and Asuka, like an adult Shinji with an Asuka. I think that's what you were talking about last week. But yeah, I can't think about Evangelion right now, man. So much stuff going on here. Also in chapter 1 wasn't Denji coughing blood. I believe his mom died from it. Yeah, Denji mentioned that, like, his mom, someone told him his mom died from some genetic disease that he has, apparently. I don't know who would have told him that, because he had no one but his dad, who was beating him while drinking. I doubt the Yakuza grandpa would tell him that either. So probably before his dad died. If Pochita erases himself, Denji is dying from his mom's disease. Oh, I already read that. But the devil that punches him literally has a moon-shaped head, so it makes so much sense. Yes. That is... Well, isn't like full moon more associated with madness? Is there something that... Is there like a connection between crescent moon and nightmares? I'm not culturally knowledgeable enough on that. But I had a banger joke for last chapter that I forgot to put in that I'm ready for this chapter. But then the fucking they Fujimoto dropped the whole ending on this, man. Crazy. Oh, but yeah, what else can I talk about for this chapter? Denji will still get killed by the Yakuza. Yeah, that's what I was saying with the no Pochita thing. Because if Pochita was in there, Denji would have been like sold for parts, apparently, because he had no way to fight for the he had no way to become a devil hunter. So he would have been taken apart by the Yakuza, or he tries to fight devils with his bare hands and then dies. Or maybe he's just that badass that he never needed Pochita to help him with fighting devils, and he just go in to fight devils with his fist. Maybe that's how Fujimoto's gonna go with. And maybe if he doesn't sell body parts in that timeline, he isn't as affected by his mother's genetic disease. I don't know, just spitting out ideas right now. It would be nice if part 3 is recreating his life as a hobo and replaces Chainsaw Man with another hybrid, like the hybrid saves Denji from the Yakuza zombie devil. Let me register that. Are you saying like another hybrid come to save Denji instead of Denji saving himself? Yeah, I guess that could be it. But the thing is, I don't think the zombie devil would have ever targeted the Yakuza if it wasn't for Pochita, right? Let me double check the first chapter, because I could have sworn that the zombie devil only wanted Pochita. Let's see. I already had the first chapter open because I need to pull out the picture of the old man. Da, da, da. You're like a dog. What we want is the devil's powers. He turns zombie. No, apparently he just wants to turn people into zombies. Yeah, I I guess not. I guess the zombie devil really just wanted to kill people, which is not the most relatable goal, but because I remember the Eternity Devil wanted Pochita specifically, but I wasn't quite sure if the Zombie Devil wanted him to. Da-da-da. What if the editor put the final chapter thing at the end just to get more views? I feel like if the editors have that much control over, or that much like desire over just clickbaiting for views, they would have had a lot more. They would have forced Fujimoto to put a lot more cameos and characters from part 1, because they are like what's gonna really drive the viewership to return. So like they would have just forced all the all the Rezes, all the Kishibes, all the Kobenis in the manga. I don't necessarily think that's gonna be the case. I don't know if what's his name? Shihei Lin is still the main editor for Chainsaw Man. Because I know he's become like the lead editor in chief for Jump Plus. So he's like working on a bunch of series right now. I think he also had like a brain aneurysm some time ago, so maybe he's not as active. I'm not sure on who's the lead editor for Chainsaw Man right now, but whoever it is, they're gonna like get shit on by the fans for sure. The zombie devil. Wait, where was I? Oh, in the next chapter, Denji will get killed by the Yakuza, and Asa won't even be mentioned. The end. It being Fujimoto, I can actually see that happening. Because Fujimoto has been like the whole insect thing from last chapter was actually really logical, right? Because without death, insects will still reproduce and they need to eat, so they eat everything. So that's a really surprisingly well thought out solution to, not solution, but resolution to everything that happened. So I could totally see Denji just have a heart attack and die, or get killed by the zombies with the Yakuza and die, and end up in like the dumpster. Um, Let me just double check if the zombie really didn't want Chainsaw Man at all. Because I guess not. Fucking Grandpa just led Denji into the factory to stab him for no reason. Yeah, I guess Zombie Devil really didn't care about Pochita. Editor forcing a fake announcement would trigger a Twitter post to correct that. Also, we get the manga for free. I don't see a monetary gain in calling Wolf. Yeah, I mean, I don't recall any other manga ever faking an ending, even. I guess maybe you can say like part one was kind of close in that they pretended it's gonna end and then they announced the part two at the last chapter. But I don't see like them faking this being the ending of part two at the very least. I would give the manga a perfect 10 out of 10 if on the last page of the next chapter, I assume that's Kishibe, shows up and goes, "What did I miss?" Yeah, where the heck is this guy? Like he kidnaps a young girl, Nayuta from China, gives Denji the Chinese Nayuta, and then ran off to never appear again. So I don't know what's up with Kishibe. Honestly, at this point, I feel like Fujimoto should just commit and not show any more characters from part one. That's a decision that I really didn't get because it's not like he's completely averse to characters from part one. He put in Yoshida, he put in Quan Chi. Didn't do much with them, not really, but he put in Kobeni's brother slash sister. I'm still convinced that it's a sister. That might have been this might have been the worst ending Fujimoto could have done. Yeah, yeah. I don't know about the absolute worst. I mean, it could always get worse, but it's like, I think at the very least, them being eaten by the insect devils, various ones, or is at least like a logical conclusion to the whole destroying the world thing. Um, yeah, I mean, I think it on the physical sense, it makes sense, and like the characters did suffer the consequences of their decisions. If we have a world correction, I do see Kobeni and her sister slash brother working at a fast food place. Yeah, yeah, they we could see them back in Family Burger. I genuinely don't know what's gonna happen next chapter. Thought my first thought was like the whole school alternate universe thing, but at the same time, would a homeless Denji really be going to school still? I don't know. I think one thing that's really confusing me though is that a couple chapters ago we see Fumiko's recording of what happened. Ooh, I had to cough almost. A couple chapters ago we see Fumiko like do a summary of her witnessing the battle between Denji and Asa. Or not Asa, Yoru. Denji and Yoru. And if Pochita is now gone, then how did those recordings get in place? Is my biggest, I think, confliction with what happened this chapter. I guess I did mention last chapter that Fumiko, had like apparently a bit more insights to the disappearance of Death than the other surviving humans. So maybe she has more memory accessible than everyone else. Maybe because there's like 200 of her. Um, yeah, I can't believe this is like the last we saw of Denji and Yoru. Just get mocked by a bunch of bugs. Yeah. I have conflicting feelings about this chapter. Very mostly regarding like Pochita's assessment of Denji's character. I guess that makes sense, but I'm just not the biggest fan of the way Denji's character have went for most of part two. I feel like if I'm going back to the whole writing part, I feel like if you want to show Denji not happy while being, you have to show him like doing that while being Chainsaw Man. Because when Fujimoto showed us Denji's unhappiness, it was when he was being forbidden to be Chainsaw Man by Yoshida. So it's not really that he suffered while he was in, while he was getting what he want. He from what we've seen, he was still pretty happy there. So it's really like external factors that caused his suffering, not really whatever Pochito says it is. So yeah, so I based on like what we have in the story, I can't really agree with the Pochita's conclusion here. The next chapter, Denji and Nasa will get married and have 10 kids and they'll announce a spin-off. That's a lot of kids. I don't know if I trust Denji to take care of more than two kids, let alone like 10 of them. He did a decent job with Nayuta for the time he had, but I don't know if he can do 10. Imagine like bringing your 10 kids to go dumpster diving with you. We also don't get an end to the Fire Devil or Little D. That is true. That is true. Um, yeah, the Fire Devil's decision for Denji was kind of weird in that I don't feel like we really got a true payoff to that. Because he says that Denji will pay for whatever decision he makes when it comes to Asa and Yoru, and I don't know if this quite fits into the guy's prediction. Denji can't have 10 kids with one ball. You know what? I'm not a testicle biologist. I don't know how like because you know how sometimes when you lose your sense of hearing, your eyes get better, or the other way around, where like your other sense improves itself to compensate for your lack of like something else. So if you have one ball, would your other ball work harder to produce sperm needed? That like would your other ball start doing the work of two balls? Do we have any doctors in here that can answer this question? I'm not knowledgeable enough on the biology of reproduction. But I really hope that Denji doesn't give up his ball next chapter. Cause I mentioned this before, but first when the first chapter of Chainsaw Man came out in like late 2018, I had to take two attempts to read the whole thing through. Because I dropped it on the first page when Denji says like, "Oh, I'm missing one ball." I was like, "No, young man, why would you do that?" That gave me like secondhand pain that I couldn't continue for a bit. And I think if Denji had gone through the entire series missing one ball, don't think I would have continued reading it. The only thing that kept me reading it was the fact that he grew his second ball back. I think the more balls, the better. Isn't there? Okay, so on JoJo, I only finished part 5. I haven't read part 6, 7, 8, or 9. I think we're on 9 now, maybe. But isn't there like a guy with 4 to 5 balls? So I think more balls, the better. We need to be high. Ball is life. Denji is gonna lose that daily slice of bread if he has 10 kids. Yes, he is. He would. He'd be the kind of dad to fight his kids for food for sure. Um, but I don't know if Asa Yoru would be down with 10 kids. I think another something else I failed to bring up is that in this alternate reality, would Yoru still possess Asa? Because I'm trying to think of like, was there anything that Pochita and Denji did to cause Yoru and Asa's encounter? Because we know Pochita fought the Horseman in the past, and Pochita defeated Yoru at some point. So that could have, relegated her to like being a ghost that possessed a bird. So if Pochita didn't do that, or if Yoru doesn't remember him doing that, would she still be wandering the earth as a bird and trying to get Pochita to return the nuclear weapons? Because that didn't happen. So in theory, Yoru should have no reason to possess Asa then. I do find the idea that we didn't see a single bit of Asa and Yoru this chapter kind of odd. And I am working on like a whole video summary of, not summary, but like a critique of part 2 even. Just like things that I feel didn't quite work in part 2. And I would say like among my biggest complaints is the I guess the Fujimoto like dropping Asa Yoru as the real protagonist of part 2, right? Because in the beginning of part 2, we started with Asa and Yoru, and we kind of see Denji from like a third person point of view almost, which is something that I really like. Because when Denji is being a superhero, I think it's cool to see how he's perceived by the other characters, right? To see like where Denji is now in the world. And I thought that was really cool. I love that. But after the Falling Devils attack, we kind of reverted back to Denji, and Asa got like less and less screen time, which is something I do feel is, I would say, the biggest flaw of part 2 in general. I forgot why I started talking about that, but how do you think Pochita's powers actually work? Does it actually create separate realities where the erase concepts exist? I don't know, and to be honest, I don't think Fujimoto himself knows. I think it's one of those things that work well because like there's really no answer to it. But like based on everything we know, I don't necessarily think there is I don't think there is an alternate reality where these things exist. It's just like I don't even think it directly changes reality. I think like in theory those things should still exist, but people just don't perceive them. But I think one thing that we know is that Pochita himself is conscious of like the existence of things that he erased, right? Because before he can actively choose to spit out certain concepts that he ate. But otherwise, I'm not sure. I think when Pochita eats something, there's like a storage in his stomach that he can pick and choose to return. So Pochita should be like a mad eldritch entity, really. But yeah, I'm not particularly convinced by like alternate reality theories. What Denji is on his teens, the kids would be underage, 11 at best for 1 out of the 10 kids. There are some young parents out there. Like in theory, if you become a dad at the age of 15 and your kid also becomes a dad or a mom at the age of 15, you could be a granddad that's like 31, 32, if we include the pregnancy time. And then I don't know, you could reproduce real fast. If we are ever captured by aliens and forced to be like livestock, that's probably how it's gonna go. I think about that quite a lot, actually. If Denji marries Asa, I would be scared if I was Denji, since her mom knows how to get insurance money from Papa Denji. Well, in this reality, I assume that Mama Mama Mitaka would still be dead, because I think even the Typhoon Devil's attack on them, predates anything Denji and Pochita did, in part 1 at least. So in this theory, Mama Asa probably isn't around. I assume Asa herself is still an orphan. That being said, though, if you give Mama Mitaka a rock, she fucks up the Typhoon Devil with a rock. Mama Mitaka undefeated with a rock. That's that scene of her like beating the devil to death with the rock and then beating Asa's dad to death with the rock is probably the hardest I laughed in part 2. I think part 2 was really lacking, and maybe not lacking, but like not as funny as part 1, because part 1 had some real good moments. If Pochita is gone, does that mean AIDS is back? Oh shit, you're right. Yes. Yeah, AIDS is back, along with the other possibilities to the end of life other than death, which is something that I was very curious about on how Fujimoto would implement that. I thought it's just going to be something that he brings up as like a, cosmic horror angle and never address it again and let the readers do use their own imagination to come up with it. But there's a real possibility that he might actually take on that idea, which is pretty cool. Do you think that Fumiko's supposed to be recording Chainsaw Man versus Yoru? I misread that. Do you think that Fumiko's supposed recording of Chainsaw Man versus Yoru could recreate the fear of Chainsaw Man? Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, that could be. Although we don't. Let me see what Fumiko actually recorded in her report, though. We have to go back a couple chapters. It's gonna be a little hard. Because I remember Fumiko said something after the nukes were dropped. Uh, bu- bu- bu. I'm scrolling. Oh man, I can't find it right now. You guys know what chapter this was? If Fumiko recorded Chainsaw Man Part 3 might be trying to recreate a Chainsaw Devil. I think the governments might. I don't know if the recreation of the Chainsaw Devil is gonna be the Pochita that we know specifically, though. It could just be like what their impression of the Chainsaw Man is. Yeah, because Fumiko did document. She recorded it as like Chainsaw Man versus the War Devil in her title. So they do have the entity by name. But that being said, we don't necessarily know if that's gonna exist still. I don't know. We'll see. What do you actually think about the ending, and how do you think it's gonna happen next chapter? What do I think about the ending? As I mentioned earlier, I'm not the biggest fan of Pochida's assessment of Denji. I do think it's kind of consistent with how Fujimoto's been depicting Denji in part two. That being said, I just don't like the direction that he went for his character in general. I do like the insects eating them. I feel that's actually a good payoff to what's been happening. Um, yeah, I too feel pretty empty by this. There is a bit of it's like, how do you describe it? It's like, what's the point of all my investment into Denji? You know, it does feel like a sense of emptiness, but not the usual. I'll miss these characters kind of empty, but more like, I don't know how to describe it. Maybe the next 2 weeks will help me put it better into words. Yeah, let me think. But like, I am kind of like, I am a bit surprised, but not too surprised that it ended like this very abruptly. Because I do feel Fujimoto's kind of not necessarily losing it, but getting a lot visibly burnt out. Because I think even like the more, because I've been on some Reddit threads, the Reddit R manga chapter threads, and the past 5, 6, 7 weeks, I think there's been a lot more critique on him. I don't know how it's doing on like, I don't know what like Japanese people's reception is for that, but yeah, I do feel like at some point part two got out of hand, and then Fujimoto didn't really know what to do with it. I'm not, you know how I always say that Fujimoto like usually has a beginning and an ending planned out for his stories. I don't necessarily know if this is it. Like when he started part two, there's a lot less Bucky than I anticipated. That's something that I haven't mentioned yet. Because Bucky was very present in the beginning of part two in terms of the promotional art, and I would have thought he would have found a way to insert a couple chickens in here and there. Well, I guess Bucky did kind of relevant for Yoru throwing herself off the bike a couple chapters ago, but I thought he might have put in a little more than that. Yeah. What's your favorite chapter from part two so far? Oh, that's something to think about. Um, there's a couple I like. I like chapter 102. That's when Asa and Yuko were running from the returned Bat Devil, and then you see Denji also returning, but from like a third person point of view from Asa's perspective, which is something I really like, and an idea that I wish Fujimoto had like fully committed to, just turning part two into a new protagonist story, and almost keeping Denji as like a, not a background character, but like a side character almost. That's something that I wished he could have just go all the way on. Um, I like the chapter of the Darkness Devil for showing up. That was very nice. I feel he really lived up to the primordial of the intimidation of the primordials. That's a really nice follow up to the Darkness Devil. I like that a lot. Let me think what other chapters. I like the aquarium chapter of Denji and Asa's date, but like either the third or the fourth one where they started eating the fish. I thought that was really nice. Mm, let me think. The yeah, I would say those are my favorite. Maybe recency bias, but I quite like the last chapter a lot, actually. Um, because I do feel my feelings on the last chapter is more caused by I was a bit disappointed towards the couple chapters before the last chapter, so that might be why I am really positive on the last chapter. And what else? I guess those are my favorite chapters for part 2. Let's see. Da-da-da. Denji will wake up and transform into Chainsaw and eat all the bugs, then bang Yoru. That could happen, I suppose. Da-da-da. Apparently on Manga Plus, the chapter says to be continued at the end instead of the final chapter. Is this a mistranslation or an error? Um, on my side, because I just grabbed the screenshots of the chapter and it still says final chapter next not next week, next 2 weeks. That's what it says on when I grabbed it. So I don't know if maybe you guys are reading in different languages. I know sometimes different languages might do different direct translations. Um Otherwise, if you guys are just talking about the let me screenshot this. This thing at the end, I think that's always like that. I don't even think an editor's in charge of that. I think that's just automated. If this thing is what you're talking about. But maybe different languages do different things. Because I know for the Shonen Jump Sundays, like Spanish, for English, right? When you do the vertical scroll, it cuts the double spreads in half. But for the Spanish reader, they keep that intact. So maybe different languages have different take on this. But I do think it's gonna I do think part 2 at least is gonna end next week. Or not next week, the week after that. Um but yeah, again I do find it strange that there's no like official announcement yet. Cause even when part 1 ended, there was like an announcement 3 weeks prior to the final chapter coming out. Do you think the horseman's ability to remember forgotten concepts will play a part in remembering Pochita? That's a good story beat idea, actually. Cause yeah, cause I think it could be a what'd you call it? It can be like an emphasis on how if Makima comes back in part 3 and she remembers Pochita despite everything, I think it could be a I guess a note on how strong she feels about him. But at the same time, the whole point of Makima and Denji's final confrontation is that she didn't know Pochita as well as she thought she did. So I don't necessarily think if that were to be the case, it would be Makima that would be doing it. I feel if maybe Yoru will have stronger memories on of Pochita, but as we talked about earlier, there's really no reason for Yoru to still be possessing Asa if Pochita's not around. Maybe she like possesses someone else and then she still remembers Pochita somehow. The Death and the Famine Devil, they don't really have much of a relationship with Pochita as far as we know. But yeah. And the Spanish manga plus, it does says to be continued. Yeah, yeah, the Spanish people do different things. Also, let me use this opportunity if there's anyone working on Manga Plus watching by chance, please, for the English Sunday manga, for the double spreads, make the vertical reader like combine the two pages and into one. Don't just cut them in half, please. It's been six years since the website's been out. Fix that, please. Jesus. But anyways, in Portuguese translation, the final page also says to be continued. Hmm. If we do get a part 3, how long of a break would Fujimoto take? So my prediction is that I think he would take like 1 to 2 years just from any manga in general, and I think he might start a different series just to maybe cleanse the palate for himself, and then maybe come back after like 5, 6, 7 years. I think he's gonna take a break from Chainsaw Man and Denji for a while. Maybe Makima wouldn't come back, but another Control Devil reincarnation. Yeah, that is interesting to think about, because if we get the Control Devil, if like Pochita reverses everything, who is gonna come back? Whether it's gonna be Makima or Nayuta, or maybe like a combination of them somehow. And what their relationship to Denji would be in that case, because Makima wouldn't care about Denji without Pochita in him, but we don't really know how Nayuta would react, if she would even at all. So I guess we'll find out in 2 weeks. Do you think Asa would share the ability to remember forgotten concepts as well? I'm not sure. That's one of my well, I guess it's my prediction for next chapter, where it ends with Asa meeting Denji finally. Either they walk past each other or they like interact and start a new relationship. I don't think there's any other choice. For my prediction at least, this could just not happen in general. But I do have a pretty vivid imagination of what's going to happen. This could just be me hallucinating. You'll be 21 in 6 years? Holy shit, you're young. Because you're 21 in 6 years. I need to steal your youth, man. Jesus. You're younger than Denji is right now, which is crazy. Well, I guess Denji is in 1998, so in you would be like 40 something right now actually. But yeah, um you know, time really doesn't time happens fast, man. Like Chainsaw Man came out almost 8 years ago now, the first chapter, which is crazy. Actually, I think the first chapter of Fire Punch came out exactly 10 years ago almost. Because Fire Punch came out in 2016. So let me double check this. Maybe Fujimoto wants to line up the ending of Chainsaw Man to the first chapter of Fire Punch, perhaps. Let me check this. Fire Punch, Chapter 1. Okay, the first chapter of Fire Punch was released in April 18th of 2016. So not quite, but quite close. Reading Fire Punch did help you read Chainsaw Man, yes. Yeah, I thought like when I was reading part 1 of Chainsaw Man, I thought like Fujimoto had refined his writing to be more not exactly palatable, but like more how do you say it? More like less abstract is what I'm trying to say. But then part two happened, and there's all kinds of shit. I can't believe it's been so long without Togata. Yeah, Togata was unique. I do feel Togata should have been like two characters though, because I think there is a bit of a maybe I have to reread Fire Punch, but I do think there's like a bit of a disconnect between their careness, like they're caring for Agni, and them filming as a director. I will say in general, I'm not a big fan of like these director kind of characters where they just want to record and film regardless of genre, but Togata really was special. And I I feel like Togata was at least for me like the first actually not quite. I was gonna say like the first explicitly trans character in like a big manga of this genre. But then I remember there were a couple characters in Hunter x Hunter that are gender ambiguous. I do think Togata was like the first to really talk about it in depths. I just realized I wonder if the shack he's living in the middle of a tree make is scarier after the aging devil arc. I don't know if he would even remember the aging devil at this point, man. Cause, hmm, I guess so. Cause he was put into the aging devil's world, but before that he was knocked out because Barum beheaded Nayuta. So there is a lot of unknowns for next chapter. Oh man, let me take a drink of water. Been going on at this for a while. Oh, what's your favorite Fujimoto work so far? I feel like Chainsaw Man is a cool culmination of the whole journey he might have since his first works. Yeah, so I said this before, but my favorites is Goodbye Eri. I made like a whole 30-minute video about it, about how much I like it. And honestly, that's like my highest effort I put into any video so far. But if I have to rank it, I would say Goodbye Eri, followed by Chainsaw Man, followed by the part one. Because I do see part one and part two as different works. I'm trying to think of which of his other one shots that I really liked. I really like the class president one shot where he kept trying to confess to this one girl and then like he keeps getting interrupted. I thought that was a really charming, funny one shot. I'm trying to think. I like the sister one shot too as well. I do think Fujimoto should maybe shift gears towards more like slice of life stuff. Um, which is what I felt part two should have been about for the most part. Um, but yeah, I don't know where I would rank part two to be honest. I have to give myself some time to think about it. It would be nice if Denji talks to a tree as a leftover quirk. Denji has no Pochita, so he is all alone. Oh yeah, that's a interesting idea. Denji going crazy and start talking to trees normally. I don't know how narratively satisfying that would be, because in the grand scheme of things, the aging devil wasn't that relevant. And he wasn't, to be honest, Denji wasn't in the Aging Devils world for all that long. I do wonder, I do wonder how Fujimoto would, not Fujimoto, how the contracts would work if the characters themselves forget about it. For example, Denji and the Aging Devil promise each other to not get involved in their businesses, but now that they may have forgotten about it because of Pochita's absence, but is that contract still in place? And if they violate it, would they just die? Hmm. But yeah, Fujimoto excels in short stories. Every one shot is paced really good. I hope he makes more one shots. I mean, I think the key for like a lot of successful writers is to just take more breaks. Like I keep talking about Hunter x Hunter, but for me the current arc, the Succession War arc, is actually my favorite like out of them all so far. So I do feel like taking breaks help you really plan out your story instead of just winging it every week. Hmm. How old are you? Oh God, I don't want to say. I don't want to say. My age scares me. I'm infected by the aging devil. But by some of the things some of the manga I follow and I talk about, you can probably guess it. But yeah, Fujimoto. I do feel he's gonna write a short series after this, and then we'll see what happens. Do you think they canceled Fujimoto to do what he wanted? They canceled Fujimoto from doing what he wanted to do. He had. All right, I've read. Let me read that one more time. Do you think they canceled Fujimoto to do what he wanted to do? He had to do something different. Oh, I guess you're saying if like the editors stopped Fujimoto from doing what he originally planned. I'll be honest, I feel like the plus side for Shonen Plus is the freedom to give to their authors. Because I feel like, if anything, they gave Fujimoto too much leeway to do what he wanted, just from like a general perspective. And from reading like some of the other Jump Plus mangas, I do feel the editing is a lot less than like the Sunday weekly Shonen Jumps. Yeah, yeah, I am in my 20s. On the definitely closer to 30 than 20. Unfortunately, the wrong side of 25. God damn it. I'm gonna kill myself. But yeah. Let's see. But yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do for Tuesdays for the rest of every other Tuesday night, man. Maybe I mean I can do like anime Chainsaw Man watch alongs. I can read other manga if they come out. My thing is like most other manga don't really have that much to discuss for me. Like I just had like a really shit idea that I read. All right, so Rent a Girlfriend comes out on Tuesday nights as well. So my really shit idea is that I read all of it bit by bit on Tuesdays and try to make a serious analysis of what's happening in it. I never read beyond the first chapter of Rent a Girlfriend just because the concept is like iffy to me. I know people they fucking hate the main character for some reason. Um, and I know one girl looks like Subaru from Hololive. Talk about other manga or anime that you're into. Yeah, that's an issue though. I'm Another manga that I'm really into is Frieren. I've been following Frieren since the first chapter, and that also comes out on Tuesdays. But apparently, both the writer and the artist have like health issues somehow together. So they've been on hiatus for forever. I really like Hunter x Hunter. The author Togashi's been in his back has been hurting for like 20 years now. You know what? I am currently making a video on Mad. I don't know if how many of you are reading that. The video is going to be about how similar it is to Fire Punch. And I really like Mad, but at the same time it's like the chapters are very, how do you say it? It's like very singularly focused, right? Like a chapter shows up, one thing happens, and then it goes on to the next chapter. So that's my other concern is that there's not much to talk about. My neighbor Kurokawa-san. Is that the one with the like a classmate and his seatmate? I think I sing that one. Haven't been following the past couple chapters. I think the issue with like just reading a regular rom com is that there's nothing I can talk about, right? It's like I read a rom com, I was like, yeah, that's cute as hell. Let's go, and that's it. That's the whole discussion. Maybe I can do like an art study, but I'm not like the biggest artist. I don't know if I can really see the nuances of what they are doing. Da da da. Is Mad good? Yeah, I think it's I really like it. I think it's I do think it suffers from some of Fujimoto's pacing issues in that the author for Mad, would just do like a whole chapter and it's all fights and there's nothing else. But otherwise, I think something Mad does better is actually than Fujimoto is actually the friendship of the characters, because I care a lot more about the relationships of Mad than just about any of Fujimoto's works other than Goodbye Eri and part 1 of Chainsaw Man. I do think the author of Mad is like really heavily inspired by Fujimoto, but it's like a toned down version of his work. I'm trying to make like a video comparing them. But that will shit, I really should stop procrastinating on that. But yeah, Mad is awesome. I love it. I do think you can like really tell I do think the author for Mad, his art is, you can see like the inexperience of his art a little bit. But I really like his character designs. He really loves middle-aged men, the author for Mad. Because if you read his one-shots, he has 4 one-shots, and only one of them is like not a middle-aged man. So the author for Mad, the character art is really good. It's the point I was trying to say. I don't know why I started talking about middle-aged men, but it's unique in that he also features a lot of Western characters. If you read most like 90% of his works, it's like his characters they have like English names. So they're named like Bob, Lily, John, Arthur, whatever. But yeah, Mad is pretty good. I do think like it's really obvious he takes inspiration from Fujimoto. I also need to read I need to finish Oshinoko at some point. I dropped it around chapter 60 something. Apparently the ending is like really bad, so I want to get to it. Because for a while, because I still am, but I used to be a big Kaguya fan. And I was arguing with people on Reddit about how the ending I felt was not good. Not just the ending, but like the entire third half. And people wasn't listening to me. And then apparently Oshinoko ending is bad. The one video I do want to do, because I did start this channel as like a Kaguya channel to begin with, is like a retrospective of the entire Kaguya series and like taking a look at every arc. Because I feel there's a lot of good things that Aka Akasaka does that really few other writers do. Because he's just so good at dialogue. I don't know how else to really say it off the top of my head. But yeah, I dropped Oshinoko at a. Alright, so I have a really weird reason for dropping Oshinoko. No, not really any spoilers, but the chapter I dropped it in is that they were doing a stage play, and then there was like a side character. For some reason, they started going into his backstory, and then they were like, okay, he's 13. And then for some reason, he's sleeping with his 15-year-old co-star. I was like, what is the point of this? So I dropped it. I was like, all right, maybe I'll come back in the week. And then I never did. I drop things for like very weird reasons sometimes. But yeah, that's definitely on my read list. Did they ever finish the anime to Oshinoko actually? Maybe I'll just watch the anime. That might be the more fulfilling experience. I know they did season 2 of it, but if season 3 comes out and it covers like all of it, I might just watch that instead. I remember going to Japan in summer of 2023, and like on the streets, all they play is the Oshinoko opening. It's I mean I still like it, but it's like they do it so much. So that's all I think about of my time there. Just the idol man. But yeah, anyways, oh shit, that's what a tangent. But what else am I reading right now that I really like? I really like Money Forest. It comes out every Sunday. I don't know if any of you are reading that. I highly recommend it. There's only like 14 chapters so far, I think. But it's about like this elf, quotation mark, and he's trying to do something, but it involves like stopping human oppressions of elves. And there's what I really like about it is that there's like a lot of scenarios that are solved with logic instead of just like some bullshit. So I think Money Forest is really good so far. There's only 10 chapters, so small sample size, but I recommend it a lot. I like Witch Watch a lot. That's by the author of Sket Dance. At this point, Witch Watch is longer than Sket Dance, actually. But for those of you that don't know, it's the author of Sket Dance used to be King Tama's assistant, so there's a lot of similarities to it. But there might be, but it's like 90% a comedy, and then it's entering its final arc. Uh, what else am I reading right now? Hmm. I guess Ichi the Witch. I like it, but at the same time, it's also there's an issue of like being too simple every chapter. There's not too much I can talk about. It's very straightforward. Um, yeah, if you guys have any recommendations, you can let me know in the comments if there's anything you guys enjoy that you think there's like a lot to go over. Let me check our manga to see if I read anything. Do-do-do. I guess Hunter x Hunter might be coming back soon, so maybe I'll do a weekly stream of that whenever it does come back. Oh, I also really like Versus. Versus is by the author of One Punch Man and Mob Psycho. I think it's really good. There's like it's like how do you say it? The setting of it, it's like a bunch of apocalypses isekai together, and the humans have to team up to somehow solve them and turn their apocalypse threats against one another. That's really good as well. However, I think it's on hiatus too because apparently the magazine that it's published in had they apparently hired a pedophile to write one of their series knowingly. It's not like they didn't know and they just hired a guy by mistake. Like they hired a guy, the guy then did his thing, and then they tried to hide it. So a couple authors like started to rebel, I guess. They went on strike. So Versus is currently on hiatus. Is the point, which sucks, but good on them for standing on their morals. Shoo. But it's also like a monthly manga, so not too much an opportunity for discussions. But yeah, if you guys have any recommendations, feel free to leave them in the comments. Otherwise, I think that's about the extent of all I can talk about for this chapter. Yeah, so conflicted feelings, mixed feelings about what's happening. But we'll see what goes on in next chapter. I'll also try to stop procrastinating and actually do videos in the meantime. Let's see. Manga PDF to do a manga is Kenshin author back. Oh, that's an interesting thing actually. I think the Kenshin author, he's not back and like he's writing a new manga, but he's back in that he got assigned to be one of the judges for a manga competition, I believe. I think it's like the yearly manga award for, I don't remember the publication for it, but he got assigned to do like to be one of the judges, which is not great. I never liked Kenshin that much anyways, to be honest. I think the Kyoto arc for Kenshin was solid, but everything else aside from that I was kind of middling on. But no, the author I was talking about is someone by the name of I don't know their name because their manga is not translated in English, but something something Doten. Let me I was gonna look, but you know what? I don't actually care enough to look. But another one who got hired is the former writer for Act Age. If you guys ever read that, because Act Age, the author for that, the writer for that, during the early months of COVID, for some reason he decided to ride his bike and started groping schoolgirls, which is not good. You shouldn't do that. So he got fired from Jump. But apparently they hired him under a different pen name to write like a isekai psychology manga. And credit where credit's due, he is a really good writer, but he got exposed like last week as well. So I guess at like Shueisha Shokukan, they got like their own Epstein files coming out apparently. But yeah, I'm getting too off topic. Uh, but yeah, that's about all I got. Thank you guys for showing up for the night, and I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.